Development at the Rotaract Club of Barbados, and I just wanted to give you a warm welcome and a thank you for attending the interview training and career development session held by the Rotaract Club of Barbados. So just a few housekeeping rules. If you feel free to turn on your cameras, we don't bite. However, once you are not speaking, we're kindly asking you to mute your mics. And if you do want to ask a question, kindly raise your hand before doing so. Somebody will call on you. So I'm going to ask Rotaract Stephen by saying to get us started with the four-way test.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, without further ado, the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do.
Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair
to all concerned?
And bad friendships.
And it will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you, Stephen. So I'm just going to give you guys a brief overview, of the project. So when the club first conceptualized this project, our project goals were to provide education on how to ace upcoming job interviews from the moment you create your CV, to provide the opportunities for students to engage in practical interview training, and to provide job attachments for students. We basically focused on the north of the island in the beginning as we partner with the Hotel Festival Committee, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that later, and to also put on the very first Rota Career Fair. So this project was conceptualized when we decided that, being prepared for interviews was an essential part of your career development. And we wanted to focus more on the school leavers because you often see these jobs asking for years of experience. And when you're now leaving school and all you have is that your certificates or your degree, you don't have that job, that work experience and that practical aspect of it. You're often scared to interview. And then when you get into the interviews, you're very scared. So we then decided to reach out to you amazing HR practitioners and ask you to come in and give these tips and tricks on how to ace these interviews and do's and don'ts when doing these interviews. So this project was actually broken down into two parts. So today's part one, where you guys will come and talk about and have a nice dialogue with these students and others about what to do when it comes to interviews, from the application process to how to dress, how to speak, how to sell yourself in the interview. And then part two, we actually did some community outreach for businesses in Barbados, where we asked them to, after this part, to actually offer these students an opportunity to come and interview and then be given job attachments. We'll speak about that more. So we move right into our partnership with the Whole Town Festival Committee. I think I saw the Public Relations Officer online, Mr. Jamar Brown. Jamar?
Yes, I'm here. If you can hear me. Are you hearing me, Ms. Springer?
We can hear you.
Okay, very good. Good morning to everyone. Good morning. Sorry, as I told them, this time in the morning is going to be a busy time for me and I'm on the road. So forgive any background noise that you're hearing, but it is a pleasure, a privilege, and honor to partner with the Rotarians and Rotaract. And this initiative brings so much joy to me personally because as a teacher for the past 19 years, and to see the youth of the nation and to know that we have a lot of positive young people, but for whatever reason in our country, we like to highlight the negative. And I always challenge the newspapers, highlight more of the positive things that the young people do when it comes to culture, when it comes to sports, and great initiatives like this. So from a festival point of view, a lot of people and the general public may not think that a festival would get involved with something like this. And that is why we decided, what? This is a great initiative.
Thank you, Jamar. You finished or we lost you? I think we may have lost him for a bit. So he could probably just, hello?
Pardon? Hi, I'm still here. Pardon?
We lost you or you were completed?
All right, let me see if, is this better? You lost me
Yeah,
for a bit.
we did.
Okay. All right. So where did you remember the last thing I said?
We were just
Or that
speaking
you
about
heard?
how great the opportunity was for the students.
Right. So this as right. So this is a great opportunity for the students, for the young people. Um, and we as a festival are happy to be on board because as I was saying, people look for at a festival for entertainment, um, to provide an opportunity for vendors to make money. But this is a new initiative where we are helping to provide an opportunity for young people to get some work experience, which is very, 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 very important for especially those students between the ages of 16 to 18, those who will be going on to the community college and UE. Is all good and well to, get those studies in and, get the degrees and so on. But work experience is very important. So to be partnering with Rotaract brings a lot of joy to us as a Whole Tongue Festival committee. As Ms. Springer said, we're focusing on the schools in the north or schools in the Whole Tongue area. But I've challenged Ms. Springer to say, you know what, because of my influence, my links, and obviously being a teacher, I actually spoke to the chief education officer yesterday, Keisha. She's very interested. So it's just a matter of us setting up a meeting so that you guys can go into the schools, let these young people actually know, because yes, social media will work, but I think literally face to face and going into the schools would be a great, great, great thing for them as well, so that they can hear and understand the import of what we are doing here. The media is going to play a very important role, and we as a Whole Tongue Festival too would also assist with pushing this great initiative, letting the rest of Barbados know. And you never know, it may not just be companies on the west coast of Barbados that will want to get involved, but companies right across the island to be involved with this. So just in a nutshell, to everyone, I just want to thank you. First, I'm going to thank Rotaract. I want to thank you, the great HR people who are here, the great personnel. And HR is one of those fields that I have the utmost respect for, because being a teacher, teachers are all HR managers dealing with so many different personalities on a daily basis. I have so much respect for people who work in HR. And let's be real, the youth of the nation, because of the social media prevalence, could be guided in the wrong way. And this initiative will help them to see, you know what, this is what the working world is like. This is what the workforce is like. This is what you have to deal with when you get to this age. And to introduce them to it early is just superb. It's fantastic. And as I said, for me, being part of the Whole Tongue Festival, it brings great joy to do this, something that, and actually funny enough, at my primary school, we were doing a career day in the next 2 weeks. So I, even then, for those persons who are at that age now getting ready to go into the workforce, I see the great import of doing things like this. So kudos to everybody, and just thanks for having us on board.
Thanks so much for that, Jamar. And we're so grateful for your connections and for pushing us towards the Chief Education Officer. We'll talk about that offline. And we have so much utmost respect for the Whole Tongue Committee. So please pass on our sentiments to the entire committee. Thank you.
Thank you as well. No problem. Thank you.
So up next, our panelists. So we're going to have Treasury Zachary McCollin. He's going to introduce our first panelist, Latoya Hines.
Hi, yes, good morning, guys. Do you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can do that.
First up, we have Ms. Latoya Hines. She's an accomplished business administrator and human resource business partner, specializing in organization development and career counseling in both private and public sector institutions in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. She's consulted with the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, the MYSCE, Get Hired, and Pathways programs in partnership with Prince Trust International. Latoya is a graduate of the University of the West Indies, KFL campus, with a Bachelor of Science in the Management Marketing with honors and a Master of Science in Human Resources Management with distinction. At this time, I'd like to hand over now to Ms. Hines.
Thank you, Zachary, and welcome, Ms. Hines. Then we're going to have our second panelist, Dr. Shanice Hunt. She's going to be introducing Mr. Dylan Downs.
Hi, good morning. Mr. Dylan Downs. Dylan has over 10 years of steadily increasing responsibility in operations management and human resources. He handles problems involving compliance, compensation, benefits, and employee relations. His expertise in talent management, which includes workforce planning, hiring, training, performance management, employee development, and engagement, comes from his experience in human resources. As the current Group Human Resources Manager with PVH Group Inc., he oversees HR and IR support for approximately 12 Barbados-based multi-sectoral companies. He provides counsel and support to the managerial team to help them achieve strategic and operational goals while mitigating risks. Dylan worked as a labor management advisor for the Barbados Employers Confederation, BCE, before joining PVH Group Inc. At the BCE, he fosters trust and beneficial social connections with more than 50 Barbados-based companies. He possesses excellent proficiency as a practitioner in training, talent management, and organizational development, survey design and analysis, and personnel selection and assessment. Dylan is the employer's representative on the C-144 committee and has represented Barbados at several conferences internationally. The most notable conference was at the United Nations Tripartite Meeting on Just Transition and Green Jobs, Santiago, Chile.
Thank you, Shanice, and welcome, Mr. Downs. And then we're going to have Dr. Laisha to speak to Mr. Kerry Curtin.
Good morning, everyone. Kerry is a human capital manager at PricewaterhouseCoopers East Caribbean with an educational background in mechanical engineering. After returning to Barbados from Toronto, Canada, where he attained both his bachelor's and master's of applied science in mechanical engineering, he joined the assurance services department at PricewaterhouseCoopers East Caribbean in 2016, where he gained experience auditing predominantly financial services claims. Approximately 1 year later, he transitioned to the business development team of the markets department, where he gained experience assisting the firm with new clients and engagements. Subsequently, he transitioned to the human capital team as a human resources generalist. In this role, Kerry leverages his varied educational and professional experiences and recently attained certification in digital analytics to add value to the various stages of the human capital lifecycle, ranging from recruitment and onboarding to performance management and benefits management and offboarding.
Thank you, Aisha. And for our final panelist, we're going to ask Dr. Stephen to kindly introduce Ms. Alicia Simmons.
Panelist Alicia Simmons is a human resource practitioner by training and practice, a professional development specialist by choice, and a passionate humanitarian. She is currently employed as a learning and development specialist in the Caribbean office of a leading international accounting firm. While balancing a full schedule, she launched her business, Sueno Management Consultants, a human resources development consultancy, providing virtual assistance and bookkeeping services. A self-confessed HR fanatic, Alicia enjoys working with young people and employees to develop their personal and professional talents. She also enjoys the more structured side of HR, which includes drafting policies and developing protocols. In serving above self, she is an active member and sits on several service organization boards within the community. These organizations include the Rotary Club of Barbados West, the St. Peter Parish Organizing Committee, the Spacetown Task Force, and the Human Resource Management Association of Barbados. Alicia loves listening to music, enjoying a good meal, preferably one she has not had to prepare herself, and most importantly, she loves to work. She loves the work-life balance occasioned by a good line with family and friends. Alicia Simmons.
Thank you very much for that, Stephen, and welcome, Alicia. So now we're going to get into the fun part. And this is where we're going to be asking the questions to the panelists, and they are going to be providing you with the knowledge. Now, we don't want it to feel too much like a lecture type style, so we encourage the attendees to ask questions in the chat, raise your hand, and ask the panelists any questions so that we can have a back and forth dialogue. So panelists, are you all ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
Ready. Let's go. So in interviews, you have to start out with an application or what we call a resume. So Alicia, can you tell us what is a resume or what is a curriculum vitae and what is the difference of the two?
So let me first say good morning to everybody on the call today. I'd like to say thank you very much for having me, being part of the Rotary family. And first, let me give a disclaimer. There's a dog in the house, so at some point you may hear him bark, so forgive that. But let's jump right into it. You asked, so what is the difference between a resume and a curriculum vitae, CV? There is a big difference. And I must say some of us tend to use the words interchangeably. And the curriculum vitae is basically used for students when they are transitioning from a university or going into another university, preferably overseas. I think a lot of overseas colleges ask for it. It is a bit longer. It's very detailed. It's probably, say, 8-10 pages long, but it talks very much about your educational background. It's very, very detail oriented. As it relates to the resume, that is what we look for when it comes to work search. This is very shorter. This is about 2-3 pages maximum, but it's very concise and it looks really at your work experience. And I know most of you on this call may say that you don't have work experience, but let me say that being part of the Rotaract Club, being part of a voluntary organization, those things you can add to your resume. But this particular part is very shorter. The resume is shorter than the curriculum vitae. It is 3 pages, it's very concise. There are some elements, and if it is that you want me to dive a little deeper into the parts of the resume, I can, but then I don't want to take it too long. But just for some summarization, what happens is that you can include something like your the profile. You can put a little profile to the top, your objectives, then you come down with your education and qualifications, your work experience. Then you can also include your voluntary work, your awards and recognitions, and probably 2 or 3 references. That is it in a nutshell. I'm not sure if the rest on the panel need to add anything else to that, but that is it in a nutshell. Those are the major differences between the two.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that, Alicia. So I'm going to pick a little bit on one of the males on the panel. I'm going to come at you, Dylan. And Alicia basically spoke and gave us a summary of what to look for in the resume. So as we're mainly speaking to students here, is it a necessity that you need to have qualifications when you are creating your resume?
Well, and the reality of the situation is that in some instances, not everyone would have, especially as a school leaver. The ideal thing is, yes, you should be able to, when you're leaving school, get your CSCs. Also, if you are at BCC, attain your degree, your associate degree, you'll be attain your degree. But also the reality of the situation is that there will be some persons that may not have this information, right? They may not have these certifications. which is also going to be okay. So in instances like that, you want a situation where you would then have to capitalize on, of course, the more human interest and human element of that particular person, of yourself. So indicating stuff like, what characteristics do you possess, in terms of what you're capable of doing, because it may not be necessarily from an academic perspective, but you may be very much a hands-on person. So you may be able to indicate that you have braided hair before if it's into cosmetology, different things you'll be able to include into this resume if you do not have the necessary qualifications to put in the resume or in the curriculum vitae. Now, if you do have it, it is very important that you place that information in there, and also ensuring that it is accurate information that you're also placing into the curriculum vitae. Because more often than not, I've seen many CVs come in and say, hey, tell me a little bit about, this particular qualification or this particular grade that you would have received. And then if I ask to receive the transcript, more often than not, it is totally different than what is actually embedded in the actual document. So also ensuring that that information is as accurate as possible is going to be very paramount, because you do not want to send the wrong message to when you're being interviewed by that interviewer or by the panelists, because then they're going to be like, was it really a mistake, or is this person being disingenuous with the information that's being recorded? So it's going to be very important that you make sure that that information is accurate when you're placing your qualifications on the actual curriculum vitae.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dylan. And just to put in a light joke here, I know sometimes you see these memes where you say, I'm not qualified for the job, but still here is my CV, here's my resume, and I'm gonna learn when I get there. So Carrie, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about applying for a job or vacancy that you see if you don't have the qualifications necessary for that job? You mean you're qualified, but you're not necessarily qualified for that job. But I mean, job hunting is so hard. You just want to be able to get your foot through the door. What are your thoughts in that regard?
Before I start, just want to say good morning to everyone and thanks for having me here. I'm going to keep the response to this one short based on what it is. I'm thinking it can't hurt, but there's a possibility it could help. Depending on the number of applicants that you get, if something about your application stands out, it could possibly lend to an experience. It may not be that one, but there could be another opportunity within the organization that you may have the correct skills for, or it might trigger someone's mind to say, hey, this is something we could consider. So I would say it doesn't hurt the applicant. The employers might be a little bit annoyed if they see applications that don't align, but there is a chance that it could help. So I would say you could try and see how your luck goes.
Okay, thanks for that, Carrie.
Patricia?
Yes.
If I may just to add to that, I wanted to say when you get talking about little memes, as just to say, more I go by this golden rule where I say, in some instances, you may not have the experience, you may not have the qualification, but guess what? You may have the attitude. So more often I say, hire the attitude, train the skill. So I would say, get that CV in, send it out. I mustn't be too annoying, but get that CV out, and do some follow-up calls on that. And you never know, you would get your foot through the door. And that has piqued my interest many times with applicants, with their level of determination and their persistence. And I say, you know what? I need to meet this person because they're so willing. They seem as though they're going to be able. And once you're ready, willing, able, and with the right attitude, I don't mind training you the skill. It will be an investment for the company and in the long run.
Awesome.
But Dylan, sorry, Keisha. But Dylan, I must say though, adding on to you, you said a very good point there just now, not to be annoying. I know I've come across several persons who would have submitted an application and they've called the office, or they will call me every day on the hour asking about their application. That to me is a little annoying. Yes, you are persistent, but calling every day on the hour is a lot. It is a lot. I would say though, you submit the application. What you can do is that you can call and say, you sent the application, just confirm that they got it, and that's fine. Then if it is that you were shortlisted, then obviously they will call you and stuff like that. And I think we will dive a little deeper into that a little later. But what I'm saying is, Dylan said not to be annoying, don't call every day on the hour.
Awesome. Thank you, Alicia. So Atoya, I'm coming in your direction, and I'm going to ask you, what advice would you have for a student developing their CV where they most likely have little to no working experience? So I've gotten my O-levels, I have my A-levels, I'm going into UER, I have my first degree, but I was never given the opportunity to work somewhere, but I want to start. So what advice would you give to that person with little to no working experience?
Hi, good morning. I want to take you back before I come forward. I know we would have spoken a lot about developing our CVs, but I want persons on the call to be mindful that this is the era of biases, and persons will have a bias for some reason or the other. So we want you to avoid placing your picture on that CV. For some reason, the person may not like females, they may not like a male, they may not like how your hair is done. So we're going to avoid placing your picture on that CV. We are also going to avoid placing your date of birth, your gender on that CV as well. Again, we want to reduce any biases. You may be too young, you may be too old. For whatever reason it is, we're going to remove that bias on that CV. And that gender as well. Remove, I am male, I am female. Let's remove that before we get started. For persons entering without any qualifications, without any experience, the good thing about it is throughout school, you would have served as a prefect, you would have served as a leader, maybe on your school council. Those skills are what we call transferable skills. So once you are involved, even in your own group project, you may be leading that group project, or you may have co-led that group project. So those are skills that come out from you that help build your character, that can be used on your CV as well. How you would have problem solved, how you would have get that group to buy in to what you were selling. All of that comes a part of your CV. Dylan would have mentioned braiding here. Entrepreneurship skills. There are so many different entrepreneurship ventures that happen in school that you may seem as though selling cakes, being a part of a cake scene may be small, maybe minute, but guess what? You may have had accounting skills because you would have to reckon the money that is coming in from the cake. So you may have to even balance that book, right? You may have to do a budget for what you need to buy for the ingredients. So that is accounting skills that actually come out from in that case. So that can be used on your CV. I wish to really encourage those on the call to be a part of volunteerism. Volunteerism, especially whether you're in secondary school, whether you are in primary school, whether you are at University of West Indies, SJPI, BCC, volunteerism is your way to get that experience, to build your character, right? So that when you actually go to set out your CV and you have your education, then you can have, I would have worked, let's say, as an electoral officer at my school when I had elections. That could be part of it. You have to develop that campaign, develop that project. So your project management skills will also come up to help sure that, I have some experience, There's also customer service skills that come naturally when you volunteer by interacting with persons as well. You build your character that way. So I hope that I would have answered your question this morning, Keisha.
Yes, you did. Thank you. And you added, some nuggets as well. I hope that everybody takes away with them. So I'm going to put this out to any of the panelists. Feel free. What do you guys think are the top pitfalls a student can face when developing this resume or their CV?
I will go ahead and mention some of them. And of course, the panelists can go ahead and jump in at any time and include some others. But so ones that usually stand out when I do review these CVs will be missing critical information. And this may seem real minor, but it's real important. Something like your contact number and your email address. So if you're sending me a CV and expect me to shortlist you and then get in contact with you, then you must put the contact details. And interestingly enough, I have seen CVs come before me where I'm like, okay, so how do I reach Atoya? Great CV, has potential, great experience, but I can't reach Atoya because there's missing critical information. Also, something that I remember when I was in third form, my year head said to us in a meeting, he said, make sure you have a professional email address. In many instances, you have these very rude and inappropriate, bigbottomsue@gmail.com, all types of crazy email addresses that are not appropriate. Sometimes as a potential employer, when we see those things, we go next, and we haven't even gone through the CV as yet, because that can also set the tone. Atoya talked about certain biases that can actually set the tone, be like, okay, I don't know what we're about to get ourselves into. We're not about to do that. In addition to that, Ricardo, and I said it earlier, inaccurate information. And I've seen more often than not, sometimes persons allow persons to help them develop their CV, and then they put a lot of inaccuracies in it, a lot of things that do not pertain to the person. So then all of a sudden, this person is proficient in Excel. And you say, okay, tell me one Excel formula, one particular function. They can't even say the sum function or the if function. So that in itself gives me the straight off the bat, I know, okay, you didn't even develop this particular CV, or you gain assistance and you don't even realize what was in this CV. Also, there's no harm in having persons review the CV in terms of typos and grammatical errors. That's also a very big one. Every single time you look around, you see all of these typos. Okay, have someone that one of your friends, a family member, someone, former teacher, someone, another professional review the CV before you send it off. In addition to that, poor formatting. That may just be my OCD, but that really does a big pet peeve for Dylan personally. Others may disagree, but poor formatting really gets me like, once I see a well-structured CV, it says a lot to me as a potential employer. And then, although Alicia would have said, making the CV, a CV versus a curriculum vitae, the CV is like telling the whole history, is very long, could be 8, 9, 10 pages. Still try to make the CV as concise and to the point as possible. Not like a resume where it's just one page, which gives me just a synopsis, because I still need insight on into you as an individual. However, try to be as concise that at the end of the day, your CV tells that comprehensive story that before I meet you, I feel as though I already know you. So those are some of the pitfalls that I would identify. I'm not sure if any of the panelists have any other pitfalls that they would like to share at this time.
Dylan, go ahead, Atoya, go ahead.
Okay, we see your hand, Jamar, but we're just going to kind of like fully ventilate this topic before we go on and take your question. But for me, it's the essay format. So you have one bullet point and you have so many things in that one bullet point, and it's not really selling yourself. Think of your CV as your marketing tool, right? To get you into that door. What is it you really want persons to say about you and think about you? So your whole life can't fit in one essay or 2 lines. You really have to develop the points and really look at what you're applying for. What is it? What is your why? What is it that you want out of this position? What is it you want this company to hire you, but why do you want this company to hire you? What can you do for this company to help them reach their competitive advantage? You may be a bit young, you may think, but that is your way. And everything that you do going forward, you must focus on what is my purpose here? What can I contribute? So you don't want to put that in an essay form. That is a pet peeve of mine when you go through the essays and you have one, but you have your structure, and then you come and write one bullet point. Oh, I did this and that and third, all in one bullet point. We can't just go through and just read that. Remember, we see a lot of CVs, so we can't go through your essay and pull out your points in that of what you're trying to say. Secondly, it needs to be in chronological order. What do I mean by that? It needs to be in the most recent experience. So if I'm reading your CV, I want to see what is it that you would have just done and thereafter. So from 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, do not put 2019 ahead and then put 2023 all to the bottom. That is not very relevant or helpful to either of us, right? Dylan speak about proofreading. Guess what? There's Grammarly. Grammarly is a free software that you can use, that you can download on your computer, that helps you with punctuation, helps you with your spelling, helps you with placement. So you can actually download Grammarly on your computer and actually have it help you with your documents. That is very, very, very important. So remember, your CV or resume is your marketing tool. It's what others sees. It's your first introduction when people sees you and what image is it that you want to put forward. I certainly want to put forward the best image, and I hope that you do too as well. Alicia?
I agree. I agree with what you said, Atoya and Dylan. I will just do 1 point. Well, 2. Dylan talked about correct information and making sure don't put the outrageous email addresses. And he did touch on the contact number. But my thing is calling some person and, well, it really doesn't happen now. It happened back in the day when people used to call you nonstop and you used to hear your phone ain't got on the money or no credit. But what we've done as practitioners is that we tend to call you off of our cell phone sometimes. But then the other thing is you've changed your number. And if you've changed your number, then just as simple as an email or just send it over saying, this is the correction, this is my new email address, my new contact number, use that. My next pet peeve would be you putting persons onto your resume or CV for your references, and you've not asked them to put them on. So I call your reference and they're saying, hi, my name is Alicia calling from XYZ. I'm calling, I understand that you carry curtain, you are a reference for Toya. Me? A Toya? I was like, yes, you're, oh, a Toya. So they don't even know that you are applying for this job. They don't even know that their name is down as your reference. What my suggestion is to call that person before you submit that resume or CV and ask their permission first if they are willing to be one of their references on your. And I must say, let them know that you are applying for XYZ job. Please let them know that in advance. So you let them know that you're putting their name on. So first you ask for permission. If they say yes, you then tell them you're applying for this particular job. Then if it is that you're successful and you're shortlisted, you need to go back to them and let them know that you've been shortlisted and you are going to this interview. You keep them abreast, really and truly, of your process and the progress that you've made. We've called so many references and they're like, huh, pardon? I don't know this person. I prefer not to make a comment on that particular person. I know we have not touched on it, but my thing is social media. Social media is a very big thing. And what you put out there, you may think that is not there, but you've done it so many years ago, you cannot even remember that you posted this picture. I'm not saying that you can't have work-life balance. I'm not saying that you can't enjoy yourself at a good lime. I'm not saying that you can't enjoy Kadooment Day. But what I'm saying is, if I see all of your pictures on your IG page every night, 7 days a week, you out at a bar, drinking nonstop, getting drunk with your friends, and I decide that I am going to see what is on your IG page, guarantee you, and I see you every night out, drinking nonstop, getting drunk, falling on the ground, I don't think I would like you to be in my organization, knowing that you're dealing with heavy equipment on a daily basis. So my suggestion to that is, before you submit the application, go into the incognito mode on your computer, you type in your name, and you see everything that pops up that I would see as it relates to you. If it is that you are not comfortable with what you're saying, you're questioning that, that means it should not be there. Take it down before you submit it. But we can get, that topic can get very deep, but I will pass it on to Carrie. But that is a synopsis right there. If it is that you're not comfortable with what you see and you're questioning yourself, take it down before you submit that application.
So I just want to add to Alicia. So I'm going back to the references. I want you to understand a reference can be your teacher, your guidance counselor, a member from your church, your youth service member. This is very important. For the prefects, it can be your head prefect as well. On your CV, you need a personal reference and a person who can vouch that you would have worked with them before. So if you know that you are selling, you're having a fundraiser, who is the head of that fundraising that you can make reference to as well to put on your CV? We don't want persons to just be your family members, but we want to speak about that skill set that you would have developed while working on that particular project, while volunteering, and so forth. That was just my addition.
Thanks so much, Atoya and Alicia. I'm not going to be too long. I just want to build a little bit on some of what my fellow panelists have said. I know Dylan mentioned the formatting, and he mentioned it from an aspect of maybe trying to satisfy OCD. I want to look at it from the aspect of increasing, making it easy for the interviewer to read. I think that's a key aspect, especially when you have an interviewer who's going to be looking at multiple CVs. You want to make yours be the one to stand out. Toya also mentioned that there's a free tool such as Grammarly. If you search online as well too, there are usually a variety of email-free resume or application templates. I recommend scrolling through one of those and see one that you like, one that appeals to you. And also, if you want to be strategic, look at something that you think would appeal to the interviewer and the company that you're applying for, and then enter your content into that format would be my recommendations. And I just really want to echo the same thing that Dylan said about trying to minimize typos as much as possible. I think we're all human, we're all subject to make mistakes, but that review is key. And why I say that is, again, if you're an interviewer that has a variety of applications that you're looking at, and as Toya said, if you try to eliminate all the biases and the only thing you're left with is this application is free of typos and this one is laden with it, which one do you think the interviewer is going to go with? So put yourself in the best position possible to be considered. That's it for me. And like we can turn over to Jamar, who's had his hand up for quite some time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, first, when I put up my hand, it's going to be on the last point that I'm going to touch on, because you guys have said so much now that putting it into context. Well, number one, I think though when we do go into the schools, and I like to speak of sometimes people say, you like to talk about yourself too much, and people probably get the wrong idea when you speak about your personal experiences. And for me, a first farmer at the greatest secondary school, foundation school, if I must add that, I don't care who get vexed. But no, seriously, guys, I remember Sophia also coming to the school for a career day and speaking. And I think that's what geared me into the mass communication, the journalism, the entertainment field, basically. The impact and the information that you guys are sharing just in this Zoom meeting, going into the schools and actually having a PowerPoint presentation on writing a CV is going to be critical, is going to be important. I was laughing so hard just now with the emails, because I say, this is so true. These young people of today don't understand. And the thing is, I have never, as much as I'm a public figure, my IG is private. Also, too, I've never posted anything at all on WhatsApp status. And that's just because the world out there is a cruel world. Not that you don't want people in your business, or especially knowing that I'm in entertainment. Yes, I've had some success, but at the same time, I know the import of using social media, but it's not for me something that I say that I have to use or that I will want to use. And I think, guys, I find that we who have been in the industry for some time, in the workplace for some time, need to put over, as Keisha said, not lecture style. I find we need to speak to the young generation for them to understand exactly. We could use obviously we're professionals, so we're going to use proper grammar and so on, but sometimes it calls for that Bayesian conversation. So listening to you guys just now and hearing in terms of posting pictures. Now, we all know we have our private lives and we can do whatever we want in our private lives. But as I said, this is a world that's a strange world. People will do their research on you. People will do this. The back and say, well, how she went out to this crew? So yeah, although it was suns out, buns out, how she got all she buns out than the image that we want to portray. And as much as that's that person's personal life, you, the person applying for the job, don't have the job yet. So at the ending of the day, I think that, as I say, it is not also what you say, but how you say and how you bring over that message. So for sure, for me, I'm hoping that with Keisha and the Rotaract, that when we go into the schools, it's not just a talk session, PowerPoint. Let these young people see in terms of what you guys are here speaking about. The other point that I wanted to touch on at first when I raised my hand, And I just wanted you, the HR professionals, to respond to this for me, because I am so lost. And I feel sometimes so bad for people who might come to me and apply for a job and say, well, look, we never hear back from the company. We ain't getting the feedback. I know sometimes you may got 100 people applying for a job, and even if it is just a simple, because people do send the emails, obviously, even if they send an email to say, well, you were not successful in your bid, whatever the case may be, I find that a lot of companies do not respond to job applications. My question is why? And I would hate to know that it's a tedious task because many persons have applied. And my thing is that there are some people who are not going to be deterred by not getting through, but may, want to come to you and ask, well, could I get some feedback of where I went wrong? So why is it that a lot of companies do not reply to persons and say, well, look, you were not successful?
That's an interesting one, Jamar. And I can't speak for the other panelists, but I would say that I was definitely guilty of that in the initial stages. However, I found a workaround. So now I removed the applications from coming to my personal or my work email or my main email address, created a whole other email address, and now I have created automated responses. So every application that comes in, there's an automated response acknowledging the application and also indicating that only the suitable candidates will be acknowledged and shortlisted. So that sends the initial indication that if you don't hear back from us, that means that you weren't suitable based on the criteria set for this role. You weren't suitable at this time. However, it also would indicate that we'll keep your application on file, which most HR professionals we do keep the application bank in the case we need to go back and reference instead of sending out a vacancy ad all the time. That's why I think it was Carrie's question where we talked about if the person just sends in a CV to us, sometimes we still keep those CVs because then that can save us money having to put an ad out there and spend a lot of money with advertising. Now, with regards to after the persons have been interviewed, like for me, I'm the Group Human Resources Manager for over 12 companies in Barbados. So you can imagine I feel like a glorified recruiter from time to time. And in doing so, sometimes, yes, some persons would have fallen through the cracks. But what I've done is started a tracking mechanism where the human resources assistant and also the admin assistant, they're now keeping track of every interview that I would have had. And then every single Friday, they're part of their duties and responsibilities. They're supposed to check in with me to see if a decision has been made with these particular persons or these applicants that we have reached, that I've had an interview with, that they'll be able to send some level of response to these persons. In addition to that, we also utilize a HRIS system, which is a human resources management system, which is Bamboo HR. And that also notifies us because now we have started to put all the shortlisted applicants into that program. And then that would give me frequent notifications that I have not updated this particular applicant with regards to the status of the interview. So there are mechanisms that are being put in place as we speak that HR professionals are utilizing. Is every single HR professional across Barbados there yet? The answer to that is an absolute no. However, we are definitely on the right trajectory, and because our community or our fraternity is so small, the word is getting out, and we are trying to adopt the best practices from each other to become better professionals at what we do.
Thanks for that, Dylan. We actually have a question in the chat from David Aline, and they asked, so if you did something that occurred during your time at secondary school and it went out to the public, can that have an impact on your chances of getting a job? That's not all answer at once. Feel free for anybody to respond.
Yeah, I think about my guy there from St. Michael's food at only buy. Sorry.
The reality is that whatever we do in our past have a way of impacting our future, but we also have an opportunity to always rewrite what we put out there, as Jamal was saying earlier. So, from now, sometimes at school, we get involved in, silly arguments. We are all children, things happen, right? But remember, you're always building yourself. From the time you hit secondary school, that is a new footprint that you're leaving. What footprint is it that you want to leave? So to answer that question, if it's a violent situation and have to get out, you have to begin to build that profile that you have changed from that narrative that was once there before. And this is how I have changed. I have now been a part. You don't have to write it, but it's true, because it's on social media and it can be good and it's bad. You can actually have a positive social media output of yourself being a part of different groups, developing yourself, and that will actually be flipped to a positive instead of remaining a negative. That is my answer for that. I'll see Alicia nodding her head. I will hand over to Alicia.
No, I totally agree with you, Atoya. I was shaking my head in agreement. I would also add, I have something to say. Can't remember. I just lost.
Can I chime in while you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I really like what Atoya said as well. And what I wanted to add to that, if it's something that you think could be viewed negatively, it can be a good thing. As Dylan mentioned, to hiring the attitude and training the skill, it could be good to acknowledge that upfront. If you know that it's something that they're going to look at negatively, we'll say, hey, this is what happened. And as Atoya is saying, well, this is what I've done since then to kind of atone for that, so that the interviewer knows from the get-go that you've acknowledged that it wasn't the best thing, and this is how you are looking to improve going forward. So on that note as well, sorry, Lisa, just want to add one thing very shortly. One thing, and this is maybe for more experienced individuals, when you have sometimes like a gap in the interview, one thing that I've seen is the applicant actually said, well, hey, there's a period of time where I wasn't working. This is the reason that I was doing it. Because sometimes when you have interviewers reviewing applications, they will look at stuff like that and goes, well, what was happening in this particular period? If you acknowledge that up front, they know that it's something you're aware of and something you can speak to. So that would be my bit of advice. Back over to you, Alicia.
Oh, my 2 cents. It was just 2 cents. I was saying that just as what Jamar started by saying, that he is a teacher, but he's also can be classified as the HR practitioner. And we in the HR field are teachers sometimes. And let me say, the role that we have is very hard. We carry several hats and we are somewhat forgiving. So once it is that you correct your wrong, we then say, okay, we forgive you for that aspect. Let's see and let's chart the way forward. Me in particular, I like working with young people, and I will assist you in getting out of that deep hole. I know Atoya and everybody on the panel, we will assist you, guide you to get out of that deep hole. Only if you are absolutely certain and willing to get out of that hole. Your attitude needs to change drastically. Needs to. So it's fine. Atoya said we all are as children at some point, but when we're younger, children will do what children do. But you need to remember the output and later in life and how you correct the wrong. That's it.
To add to that, Alicia, that just to follow on, yes, we are definitely 110% forgiving as HR professionals. And always remember the first word in our title, human. And we always try to put the humans first. But in addition to that, we're also governed by legislation. And we really can't discriminate. And there's actually a discrimination act that has been enacted and that we are also governed by. So there's certain ethical things. So yes, you may have a past, or yes, you may do something, but we really, although Atoya talked about the biases, we can't be blatant also with our biases that we may have, because we are also governed by that. So though we would try to protect yourself and not find yourself in such a position, but if you do, is also being your authentic self, bringing that to the table, and that will speak volumes about your character. And then it also speaks to that level. I would say this person would accept accountability. So if something has to happen while they're carrying out their duties, I can, without a shadow of a doubt, say, I know that they would accept the necessary accountability. So that's just a little golden nugget for you guys to take with you.
President Nania, your hand is up. I see.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the panelists for giving up their time and this amazing amazing information. Dylan just said something very interesting about being your authentic self when you're doing interviews. So my quick question is, how much of your authentic self is too much?
How much of your authentic self is too much? So we don't need to get into the nitty-gritty. So I think Elisa alluded to it when she's talking about the pictures. So I don't need to know that you're a party girl and how much you like to drink and how often you like to drink. I don't need to know that, which fests you like to attend and all of that. Give me, if you just indicate to me that you like to socialize, that is sufficient for me. Going into the nitty-gritty of it is not always necessary. Like well, a lot of the young persons on here, but I could, because I don't know what's the new facts. Not going to talk about the ones back in my days, but I don't need to know you've got a lava ground. I know people know about the lava ground or the pale lane or whatever different things used to exist, and I can't speak about now. But I don't need to know that you go to those things. But simple, to the point, I like socializing. I like, hanging out with my friends. I will go from time to time and basic information. But when I speak about being your authentic self, I just also still want you to be true in terms of, as I talked about, if you made that misstep or something that would have happened. So like, for example, you would have, and I saw someone typed it in the chat here not too long ago in terms of someone placed on their CV why they were terminated. But again, the HR fraternity, we're small and we can call each other. I'm sure now Carrie and I, we're buddies. So if I know where Carrie works and I know someone that used to work there and they're applying here, I might pick up the phone and call Carrie. Carrie, like, what's the real inside scoop on why Alicia left the company? Now, when I spoke to Alicia said, oh, it was stressful and I tendered my resignation. But when I speak to Carrie may tell me, oh no, she was terminated. He may not go into all the details, but he may say, no, you had to terminate her. And I may ask the general question, would you rehire her if you had the opportunity to? And Carrie may say, no, I wouldn't. And at that point, I've lost all credibility with that particular applicant at that time. So also being true, having those honest conversations and indicate that, this is what transpired. And also I've made the mistake or made that particular mistake when I was at that particular job. But now I've learned from my mistake and this is what I would have done to show that I have overcome that obstacle and turned, people Bayesian say 360, but 360 means carry back to the same place. So I've done that 180 that is required to get me now to the place that I am at today, to be that young professional that has made that change that's sitting before you today. And that resonates a lot with us as HR professionals when we're carrying out those interviews. Not sure if any of my panelists want to add on to that. No? Okay.
We have a raised hand from Sonia. You could go ahead, Sonia.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Chairman of the Houghton Festival Committee, I just want to say a big thank you to Rotaract and to the HR professionals. I'm here sitting and I'm listening. And as an older person, and I'm sure I'm older than everybody online, I want to say to you young people, this is an awesome opportunity. Me growing up as a young person would have wished that I had this opportunity, hearing and getting all of this information to help me go into the workforce. This information, I want you to don't just listen, but to grasp it and to take it with you because it is awesome. HR 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when I first started as a young person, and HR now has evolved. And I want to say thank you to this panel because I am here and I'm learning so much from you. And the knowledge, the knowledge is awesome. Young people, please say thank you to Rotaract and to HR and grasp this opportunity. Don't just sit and listen and go from here and decide, well, it was another day. This is an opportunity that has been given to you. please grasp it, take it, and run with it. The knowledge is so great. HR, thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sonia. We're now going to open it to the attendees. If you guys have any questions to ask, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we will call on you. If not, we can go right ahead. Okay, none? All right. So I've now created my resume, created my CV, and I have my professional email, my number is on, and I sent it in to the employer for this job. And, you know, since COVID, we had the opportunity to do everything almost virtually. So now there's Zoom, there's Google Meet, there's Teams. So should you treat an interview done virtually any different from an in-person interview? And that's if I do get the call back to attend an interview. I will put that out to anyone, actually, any of the panelists.
Absolutely not. You should not treat differently. You should prepare and dress the same way. I'm going to repeat that. You should not treat face-to-face interviews different from online interviews. The reason I repeated it is that you need to dress for the interview. You need to dress, right? We have had persons being inappropriately dressed. They had to move away for one reason or the other. And we would have seen their boxer shirts, inappropriate bottoms. You get up and you get dressed. Get dressed doesn't always mean being physically dressed. So I addressed the physically dressed before. You can wear a nice polo shirt like what I'm wearing now for the online interview or face-to-face. If you do not have, I know that you guys are maybe leaving secondary school, so you may not have that office wear. I may not know what backgrounds that you may come from as well, but a nice polo shirt that doesn't have much print on it or anything like that will do the trick, and a nice black pants, right? Or pants that, most importantly, a pants that doesn't have anything cut up on it, anything stuck on it, you know, anything that isn't set for the peeling, as Dina would have said earlier, right? And you know, we're already ought to be talking about the peeling, right? So you want to dress. If you're in person, you make sure your shoes are clean. You make sure that you present yourself well. That is your attire. What I want to really get at as is though, present yourself well, meaning research the company that you're applying to. Get some background knowledge. We often think that dressing well is it. So when a person asks, why do you want to work here? What do you know about the company? You don't go, I don't know. You have researched the company and you know what that company has to offer. You look at that company website. We are all on social media. You look at that company Facebook page. Look at what activity that company is doing on Instagram or in the news. You get dressed for success in every area of this role that you are applying for, right? I know sometimes person may have their hair locks or what have you. Guess what? Just brush it in, make yourself look tidy as well. When you are online, let me just address this as well. When you're having face-to-face interviews, you want to be cognizant or be aware rather of the noise that is happening within your surroundings, or if there's any heavy equipment operation that is happening. So when you receive that call and bring to an interview, you know this is happening, you tell your household first and foremost that you're having an interview on X day and X time, and you know they should not disturb you unless it's absolutely necessary. If you know that the light and power has sent out a notice that you're going to be without electricity, or maybe Flo said that your Wi-Fi is going to be, they're having some excavation or what have you, that is something that you actually tell the interviewer when you log on that call. You know, there will be some noise in my background and I do apologize for it. I just want to let you know in advance. You know, being your authentic self, being open is what we look for as well. So I'm going to hand over to my client. I don't really want I want to give everyone.
All right, so go ahead, Carrie. Go ahead, Carrie.
Alicia, I'll let you go first. You go first, and I'll chime in.
I will say I agree with Atoya. What I will say though, and I'm going to tackle the virtual first. Before we as practitioners, we tell you what type of interview you're gonna have. You're gonna have a virtual or you need to come in person. We tell you that up front. If it is that we may forget to tell you, please ask what type of interview you're gonna have. If it is that we're gonna have a virtual interview, you're gonna ask which platform, and we'll tell you which platform. So if you can use Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, so be it. Please test this before. So you can ask a friend of yours, even one of your references, even a family or a friend, what you can do, you're gonna set up first. So using this call as an example, we all came on earlier. The call started at 10. We got here probably say 9:30, but if it is an interview, you try to do it a day before, early up in the morning. You try to constantly test it. Granted, there may be, sorry, and that's the dog barking. But, and I go back to Atoya point, I excuse the dog barking at the beginning of this presentation. So anyway, so back to the point. So you test your screen, you test your camera, you look for the best lighting, you make sure that your mic is working, the camera is not laying down, it's not to the ceiling. This lighting that you're seeing on my right is very bright, but I did it for purpose so that I can show you what it looks like. So that is one thing. You need to test that first and foremost. Make sure that works. And everything you're hearing clearly, make the excuses if you need to. And let's go back to the attire. Dress as though you're going into the space in person. You're here. Let's start with the hair, and I'm going to work my way down the body. Here is a big thing now. Males, and we've seen it throughout, males are now allowed to wear school their hair flat. That's fine. Just make sure it is neat. Neat is relative to you and to me, but what I'm saying is, if it is that one side stick out here and it's flying all in place, and it may be a style, but just make sure it is not fuzzy. Make sure you go to the hairdresser or you get your friend to make sure it looks good. When you go on the camera, it doesn't look awkward on the screen. That's the first thing. If it is that you're working your way down, you put on a decent shirt, the polo shirt can work. Make sure it does not have any signs or pattern or print on it, and that a plain always works. A plain shirt always works. And as Toya said, the bottom. The bottom needs to have a full bottom, no sharp pants. Up here, I've seen some with some girls with some quote unquote body riders out, and they had to run from the screen. I've seen some males with just the boxers on. Make sure you have on a full bottom as though you're going into the office in person. That's the general outline for the virtual space. I know we've not talked about the in-person, but let me talk about it. Now we are here. In person, dress for success. Do the hair, these earrings I have in, the big hoops. I normally do not suggest females to wear these large hoops. Make it very simple. Flat bobs will work. Females, no discrimination. If it's you're wearing bobs, make sure they're nicely met and stuff like that. The shirt, make sure you press the shirt before you come to the interview, please. Press the shirt if it is that you need to press it. If it is that your pants need a belt and you're tucking it in, make sure you have a belt. I'm saying if it is that your economic standards does not align, borrow it. If it is that you're going to school, you need to wear a school belt, wear that. But you can also borrow a belt. The shoes need to be clean. And that's just it in a nutshell. There's something that we tend to forget as human beings. If it is that you're going to an in-person interview, and this is not funny, this is very serious, and you are having a meal before, you see onion, garlic, and fish, it sits on your breath. It sits on your breath. It's okay to carry, just carry a little toothbrush, a toothpaste, a little gum. Do not go into the interview throwing the gum though. You just need to freshen out your breath and work from there. Just make sure, just be mindful of what you eat before. Females, if it is that you're wearing the makeup, do it to a minimum. It's not that you're going jumping down Kudumat there with the eyelashes curl up and touching the door. The eyeshadow is extremely pretty with the little studs at the side. Be mindful of that. Keep it to a minimum. When it's a minimum, minimum. When it comes to colognes and perfumes, you do not know the allergies and the sinuses issues that the interviewer may have. Keep that to a minimum. I'm not saying not to put on your little perfume, but keep that to a minimum. I know some females and males too, they tend to put on because they say they can't smell it on themselves, but guarantee you the other person who you are sitting in front, guarantee you they can smell it. So just be mindful, keep that to a minimum. And that's it for me in a nutshell. I touch a lot, but there are others, but that is it in a nutshell. Carrie?
Thank you so much, Alicia. I really like the level of detail that my colleagues, my fellow panelists have gone into. So they covered most of what I was thinking to say. The one thing I wanted to highlight, I would say, is there a difference? No, in that you should prepare for both, but yes, in that the preparation looks slightly different. And one thing that I wanted to add is that also plan to get there on time for either one. So when it is virtual, the level of detail that both Alicia and I think Atoya went into in making sure that you have a quiet workspace, one that where you can minimize interruptions, that is key, but also make sure you try to log in beforehand, so in case you run into any unexpected issues, you can hopefully resolve those before the time for the interview. And the same thing when you're going in person as well, to try to get there, try to aim to get there at least 15 minutes early in case you run into any unexpected traffic or issues finding the exact room or the place. And also with that in mind too, if you can, if it's not someplace that you visited before, try to see if you can get there beforehand so you know exactly where you're going to be going on the day. And while I'm speaking, I wanted to add a little bit to the question that Dylan responded to for Danielle in terms of bringing your authentic self to work or to the interview. What I wanted to say to that is you want to bring your professional, authentic self to the interview. There's not every aspect of your life that you necessarily bring to the workplace or to an interview. Ideally, you'd like to bring as much of that as possible. So with that in mind, what I also want to say, so Atoya mentioned doing research on the company that you're interviewing with or you want to work for. I recommend looking to see if that company's policy, that company's vibe looks like it aligns with yours. If it doesn't, make the decision, is it something that you want to aspire to or not? Because I wouldn't recommend being a fake version of yourself and then you get the interview and then you're there and you're not happy. So I'd say look for the places that their authentic self aligns with yours and try to make that alignment. That's it for me.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we continue on the actual interviews, I actually saw a question in the chat from one of the students, Kriana. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was about the CVs. The person asked how many qualifications are supposed to be on your resume or CV. So if we could just quickly answer that point for them, and then we could head back in.
Since I've unmuted first, so that I would say review the job description, the job application, and try to make sure that you have your qualifications align with that as much as possible. So Dylan would have mentioned leaving things out. If you do have the qualifications and they are in that job description, make sure that you include them. However, again, as Dylan would have mentioned earlier, please don't put in anything that you do not have, because that will also come up in some way, shape, or form, because typically once you are successful, they're going to request proof of those qualifications. So in short, include what is asked for in the job description, or if you have more that isn't asked for but you think it might be relevant, you include those, but do not include what you do not have.
Right, just to add to Carrie, what I will say is that we have some divorcing as we grow. What do I mean by that? You don't need to include your primary school on your CV. After your primary school, after you've been to secondary school, we can successfully say you have divorced your primary school education, you're climbing the ladder. As you prepare to leave secondary school with your CSCs, and you may have enrolled at the SJPA or at BCC, you're preparing to divorce your CSCs, right? For higher education. If you're going to do an associate degree, you have now divorced your CSCs. If you're applying to do your BSc, so you can go your CSCs, your technical education from the SGPA or from BCC, your associate degree, then your BSc or your master's. Just be careful of how you are arranging them. Remember, it's chronological order. So you know you don't have to put your secondary school education if you have your associate degree there, or your BSc or your MSc. So you have your MSc because that's the most recent one you would have had, your BSc, your Bachelor's of Science, and then your associate degree. So if you have the three of those, you don't need to put your and this is I stand to be guided by the panel as well. You don't need to put your secondary school education there. If you're now leaving secondary school, it's your CSCs will go there, but then you will have your continuing education when you have additional certificates. For instance, in Microsoft Word, maybe the JavaScript that you may have used. So you separate them from your education to your continuing education, right? You need to be clear of what you're doing, but as you grow, you would have to leave off some of that. The next thing is Dylan spoke about how you lay out your education. You don't have to list each and every subject that you would have done and the grade, because sometimes, you know, it can be a lot for that page, right? Keep it simple and direct to the point. Look at that job description, see what they're asking for, and you write accordingly. That was my input. Yes, whether we like it or not, there's a question inside the chat about biases based on school that you would have attended. And this is why that I would like to, that I really advocate moving away from placing your secondary school on there, because persons who have been to the lower secondary schools may feel as though they are not, maybe some bias out there to the school that they would have attended versus a secondary school. We all know the Waterford School, the Waterford University, how they feel about their people. So based on certain schools, we get more inclined for that opportunity. So that's why I often say, once you begin to grow corporately, then you divorce your secondary school education from being on that paper. I want to just advise person on the call that education, never stop learning. You learn every single day in your life. And as you begin to grow, you can do short courses until you're able to reach the bigger course, but just do not be stagnant, right? Identify where you want to go. If you want to be an entrepreneur, then you pursue entrepreneur studies. There's the SBA, and there's also the youth entrepreneurship scheme that really will help young people, I think, and the youth business trust out there as well, that really help young people in their venture. But make a start. There's BIMAP for short courses, there's the SJPA for short courses, and there's the BCC. There is a course out there for everyone, and keep growing. Do not think that because you have been to secondary school, that is a grow. I want to just encourage you to grow.
Thank you for that, Atoya. If any of the other panelists want to add to that, feel free, or we can go into more of the interview questions. Dylan, we good? Good, all right, awesome. So in terms of, I'm gonna go to Alicia now. So I've gotten the interview. In my opinion, I had a really good interview, or based on our conversation, I feel positive about it, but I haven't heard back from you. So how long after the interview should I wait for a response? I know we touched a bit on it earlier, but what's the standard time? Is there a standard time?
All right, so what I would say is that at the end of the interview, we as practitioners or whoever's interviewing, we normally tell you a time period. We are still interviewing other candidates, and we are looking to wrap this up within 2 weeks. So you'll hear from us in 2 weeks' time. all right? I know we are all anxious. I know that we want to hear about something. I know that you can't sleep at night, you're frigidity, everybody asking, you hear about something. That pressure, don't allow it to get to you. So call every day on the hour. Let the 2 weeks pass, because there's a process. We need to complete the process. We need to interview other people. Let the 2 weeks pass. Guarantee you, it may not happen within 2 weeks. Give us at least additional, say, 3-4 days after that 2 week period if you have not heard that from us. And when you're calling very polite. You're gonna call, hi, Carrie, Mr. Curtin. My name is Alicia Simmons. I had an interview with you 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago on this particular post. I'm just following up, or I'm just seeking an update. Then we answer you. Let the process run its course. If it is that we give you a time frame, let that run out. Give us 2 or 3 extra days to work it out, and then you can call. All right. Once it is that you call, we give you an answer. And the answer may be, we're still conducting interviews, we're going to get back to you. Or we can say something like, we finished the interview process, but now we need to go through our notes and get back to you. You will hear something from us. And like what Dylan said, we know there are some, I can't speak to all, there are some practitioners who do not get back to you. Okay, there are some. Granted, there are some. But like what Dylan said, most of us are trained. We put things in place. We send automated emails. We have our assistant help us out with that. Guarantee you, some of us, we will get back to you. All right. And if we give you a time period and you call and you get us and we tell you again, give us another 3 days, another week, let it run out and ask. But what I'm saying is, it's only so much. Looking at it from your perspective, it's only so much you can do. And if you let a month pass and you call within that month and that person didn't get back to you, in my opinion, don't hold it against us or hold it against the company. Continue sending those CVs and those resumes out there. Continue. Guarantee you, if it is that you're not successful, we put it inside the data bank and we keep it. If something pops up and we think that you're the ideal candidate, we call you back.
All right, thank you about that, Alicia. I want to go back a little bit now to when you're actually in the interview. So I'm here now, I'm talking with you. What do I really say or what do I do? You know, you usually prepare for an interview like it's an exam. You go and you research your company and you research what to say when they ask me this question. And then you start off with, tell me about yourself. And at that moment, I cannot tell you who Keisha is. So what do I say and what do I not say while I'm in the interview?
All right, so you rightly said, and that's one of our first questions. And that first question normally is to break the ice, truth to be told, because you come in there very, very flustered, nervous. Granted, we know you are nervous, we know that. Calm your nerves. That question is to bring you right back down, calm you down. But like you said, you prepare. There's nothing wrong with preparing. We try our best to ignore the nervousness. I tell you, I'm going to share our story that we had a couple of weeks ago. We had an interview, we had a panel interview, and Atoya was on the panel with me. We did some interviews, and they had this gentleman who came into the room. Let me tell you, this is the first experience I've ever had. This man was extremely nervous. When I tell you extremely, you can literally see him shaking. We saw him doing his head like this, trying to stop his head from shaking. He was that nervous. What we ended up doing is that we gave him some time. We tell him, go get some water, come back. We had a casual conversation. Nothing dealing with the interview. We haven't started the questions yet. We just had a general conversation so that he can calm himself. And then we started the process. And he did not even know that the interview was going on because we did a dialogue. We just talked to him. So what I'm saying is you can practice. We tend to feed out, most of us tend to feed out some of the nervousness and some of the things that you may say, and then you be like, I really said that. But we tend to feed that out and we listen to what we really need to hear from you. Practice with other people. Keisha, like I've explained to you, I don't have a problem preparing people or having a general conversation one-on-ones with, and I'm sure Toya would do it. I'm not sure about Carrie and Dylan, but Toya and myself, we tend to sit down with people. We try to help them out the most possible questions that can be asked. The internet is the oyster. Let me tell you, just going internet, there are so many questions that you can pull from there. Research the company, but it all comes with practice. Eventually, you go to 3 and 4 interviews, because I guarantee you need to go to many and say you get the no's until you get the yes. But use those as a building block and continue practicing. That's the best I can tell you. Just continue practicing. These forums tend to help you quite a bit. My number, my email, I am open. Atoya, you know, she's willing to just sit with you, answer some questions, tailor or ask you, but keep it authentic. Be truthful in that matter. Go ahead, Dylan. I see you itching. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in addition to that, I also wanted everyone to know that as much as we are interviewing you for suitability for the role and for the company, you're also interviewing us to see if our organization is also suitable for you. So this is also your time. And I think Atoya and Alicia was talking about it, about preparing yourself. You know, you come with your questions because you may want to gain insight about the culture of the organization, which is going to be very important because it may not be suitable for you. It may be a little too rigid, a little too strict. You may be a creative, but that environment may not allow you to be as creative as you will want to be. You know, you want to give further clarity on the expectation of the role, because what you get in the job ad is just a synopsis, or what we try to pull out is the most critical areas of the role, but there's really more to that role that exists. So making sure you understand that, you understand the role in its entirety too, so you know what you're getting yourself into also. And also be cognizant of titles and be careful with titles. I said titles mean nothing in 2023. You see someone says they're advertising for a human resources assistant, and in fact, that person really looking for a human resources manager. Or the person may say that they're looking for an admin assistant, when in fact, it has a lot in accounting. So you may have studied accounting and you want to be an account, but you don't see the position say accounts clerk, which may be the entry level into accounting. But when you look at the duties and responsibilities, then all of a sudden you see some payables in there, you see some receivables in there, you see you got to do a trial balance. It's like, hold up. So yes, it's that admin assistant, but it has accounting functions. So start looking at title and start reading the job, start reading the actual duties and responsibilities of these positions. Is very important. Also get further information regards to the wellness and benefits program, the what's in it for me, you know, because a company that cares about its people, more often than not, productivity is at its highest, is at its best. And that is a company you want to align yourself with. I'm not saying that some that don't have it, their productivity will not be high, because due to financial constraints, that may be the case. But try to see what benefits also the company has. What training opportunity, Atoya alluded to it. Listen, you're never too old to stop learning. Every single day is a learning experience. Continuing in education is going to be important. And also the organization that aligns itself, or you align yourself with an organization that puts that to the front or to the forefront of any employee's development is paramount for you. And last but no means least, because I could talk for the whole day, look for companies that have upward mobility for you too. Because yes, you came in at a certain level, but you want to know, does this company or will this company afford me the opportunity to grow? And I know a question is going to be coming up soon, so I'm not going to talk about it, but a question because there's going to talk about salary. Also, sometimes don't always look at the money. The money going to come, you know. The money is going to come. What is most important is the experience. That cannot be taken from you. Once you've gained that experience and you have been able to apply it and you're able to put it on your CV and to speak to that, and say, with confidence, I have done this, I'm competent, I am capable of doing this. That speaks volumes. So that 8, 9, 10,000, whatever salary expectation you want is going to come. Just give it time. And I know patience is not, for most persons, is not a virtue, but it really still is. Just take your time, gain the experience. And once you have gained that experience, take Dylan's stupid advice. The money will come.
I just want to add to Dylan. So I want you guys to be strategic in whatever you guys are doing from here on. Yes, you have listened to us all morning and you're going to take away some nuggets, but I want you to write down what is your strengths and what is your weaknesses. That is very important, especially as you prepare for an interview, because that is one of the questions that an interviewer is going to ask you as well. But what I want you to focus on that is when you say, tell me about myself, you can pull from your strength section as you're speaking about yourself. So you know what? I am very efficient in customer service. I can persuade customers to identify the product that they want and increase sales by X amount, right? How from my little cake sale, I keep going back to my little cake sale. I at the corner of the first farm block and I hustling some serious cupcakes from Valentine's, right? With my committee in the background. And I know that this is Valentine's and I know Easter and I know that, everybody will have a secret sweetheart, be it your mother, be it your school sweetheart or a family member. And you said, you know what, this is the marketing tool for this. So I would have assisted with the marketing tool for this cake sale. I would have been there ready in the customer eyes and giving that customer support. I would have been coaching that customer into buying that cupcake despite they're on that diet. Not only just one cupcake, but two. So therefore, I would have helped really increase the sales of my fundraising venture. So those are things that you actually go back. So what are you good at? I am good at selling, right? I am good at driving sales. I'm good at increasing sales. So we're not looking at, remember, we understand that you on this call is, secondary school students or tertiary school students, but we want you to understand that it starts small and it can go bigger. Because when they didn't call you into your room for an interview, well, I did that. Well, you did all that during that case. Yeah, but I want you in this role. And you begin to grow. So what is your strong point? Commercial sales is my strong point. You wouldn't even believe it. You know what? I can lead your customer service and be different. I can develop content for social media using programs like Canva. So don't think that when you develop little pictures in Canva that you're just doing it as a freelance. That is a marketing tool that you actually use as well. So make a note of your strengths and your weaknesses and see how then best that you have now. So for example, I know within schools, there's a lot of public speaking, Toastmasters. So if you have an issue with public speaking, then you lean on Toastmasters. So when you interview, say, well, I have a weakness in that. Well, how are you working towards it? I have joined the Toastmasters club, and this is how I am improving myself in schools, because there are ways for you to pivot. You don't have to wait until you get out in the world of work to actually begin to pivot. There are environmental schools activities that you can actually be a part of. You can help navigate that hike. Dinner sport to employee engagement, right? I'm sure that things for little nuggets that you can bring to help bring that activity so you can start where you are. I want you to remember that you can start where you are and actually build as you continue to grow. There are community forums that you can actually join to as well to get that experience also.
Atoya, I have actually here.
1 second.
Just breaking up. Sorry, go ahead.
1 second. In that question, tell me a bit about yourself. I want to listen to what the interviewer is asking, because sometimes there is a prelude. So persons to avoid biases may ask you to leave out your age and what secondary school that you have been to. Yet still people do not listen and just begin to just speak. I want you to listen. That is why I want you to do your strengths and your weaknesses so you know what you're asking for. Don't ever say, I don't know what to say. Prepare. And this is something that is a pet peeve that always comes up. I don't know what to say. I don't know what else to say. I have had someone said some of these strangest things, I will not repeat it here, but some of the strangest things, prepare for yourself, know who you are, know your why. Why is it that I want them to hire me? And everything that comes out my mouth should be really channeling that employee to look at me in a different light, whether I have the qualifications or not. Dana is correct in saying to apply for a job because you are flattening your 4 tires before you even get inside the room. look at what that job is asking for and look at how you have, over the years, developed your track, your footprints to get yourself closer to that job. And if you know you want to be a content officer, I encourage you to start volunteering and lead yourself towards that career development to get where you need to go. Go ahead, Alicia.
Right. So you touched on it. That's exactly where I wanted to go. That question, tell me about yourself. We don't want to hear, or I don't want to hear, you have 6 brothers, you live down the street, and your mother works at this place and that place. We don't want to hear that. We want to hear what you're bringing to the table. And like Atoya said, your strengths. So we ask you, tell us about yourself, but don't start off by saying, my name is Alicia Simmons, and I am X years old, and no, don't start off like that. Start with your strengths. And like Atoya said, let us know the areas that you're developing on. You may be weak in an area, but you're developing it this way, right? But that's all I want to say. When I was going to say, then you jumped in. That's fine.
I just wanted to add in a little bit as well, building on something that Dylan said, because he was encouraging candidates to ask questions. What I'd like to say is please ask questions based on your research of the company. Ideally, you don't want to ask a question that could be easily answered by just reading the job description, right? You don't want it to look like you haven't prepared for the interview based on the questions that you've asked. So just try to keep that in mind.
Sorry, this can go very long, but this will be my last point, and I like to draw on examples. Back to myself and Atoya. We had an interview, we did the interviews, and this young lady, we asked at the end if they have any questions for us. This young lady brought out 2 folder sheets of questions for us. 2 folder sheets. And it's not like they had spaces or 2 lines missed out or 3 lines missed out. 2 folder sheets of questions for us. So what we ended up doing is that we told her, it's fine and okay that you came with all these questions, but at least we can give you 3. Ask us any 3 on that paper, and we were willing to answer. So just be mindful. We are time constrained. We are going with a time frame because, like I said, we have several people to interview, and we don't have a problem with you coming with your questions, but be mindful of the time. We always leave time at the end of us asking you the questions for you to ask us the questions, all right? So I would say at least bring 3 or 4. You may not get through the 3 or 4 because your first question may be so in depth that it takes up the time, but at least come prepared to answer us questions. Not 2 photo sheets, at least 3 or 4 questions to ask us. And we are always willing to answer. Going back to the point about the researching the company and knowing what you want out of the company and if this is the right fit for you. We on our site, we normally have things like corporate social responsibility. If that's something that sticks out to you, you can say something like, I see on your website you do the cancer walk and you give back to the youth, and then you try to see how that fits your character, if that's something that you want to be part of. So start your research, tailor your questions for us, and we are always willing to answer.
And one other thing for me, because Alicia said this earlier, that as interviewers, we generally try to give you an idea, expectations of the next steps by the end of the interview. If for whatever reason that hasn't come up, let that be one of the last questions that you ask before you leave, because then that will inform answer your question of when should you follow up if you haven't heard the response back, as Alicia was saying.
Dylan, this goes back to your question, and I know, Keisha, the question is coming about salary. I know it's coming.
Oh, it's already
in the chat.
Already in the chat.
Oh, it's already in the chat. I have not read the chat, but on your first interview, please do not let that question be your question. So wait, how much you pay me? When is the salary coming? When is the payday? don't let that be your question. All right, Dylan, I'm not sure if you want to touch on the salary, but I don't let that be your question.
So what's in the chat? What's in the chat is Jada asked, if they asked you about your expected salary, how much you are looking for, how should you answer that question? They often wonder if it is a trick question, because you don't want to call a figure and then you undervalue yourself. You don't want to call a big figure and then the interviewer like, we can't pay this person. So just cross them off your list. So how should you respond to a question like that?
It's very funny is that similar to the person being interviewed, I think it's probably the worst question for most persons. But I knew this question was going to come. I was like, oh God, this is going to be the worst question to provide a response to. Because like, how do you even answer a question like that? However, because more often, especially as a school leaver, and what I found here in Barbados that is not readily available to us is the actual salaries for the various roles. And that's just the reality situation. So you find person who go and try to do research on a marketing officer, of course, they get the US dollars. Which when you do that comparative analysis is nowhere in line with what we're paying here in Barbados. So, wait, 1 second. Okay. My thing is going to have to restart, but I was able to remind me later, so I hope it don't cut out. If it don't cut out, one of my colleagues, one of my former panelists would jump in and just take over that question. So you're unable to get that information. So what I usually say to persons is that you should endeavor to do the necessary research on the role first. Also, what you should endeavor to do is do what I say is an analysis of your expenses. Yeah, determine what is the bare minimum that based on what you may have to do. I know some persons may still live home and what's not, but so they may not have a lot of expenses. But what I would dare to share with you is that there's actually a minimum wage in Barbados, which is $8.50 per hour. So in whatever expectation you or whatever salary you give, just know that you should be over $8 at $8.50 or over the $8.50. That is very, very, very important. But if you're able to do your analysis, which is your expense analysis, and determine, okay, well, you know what, bare minimum for me to carry out, I know I may go further my studies and do the next and do the third, bare minimum, let's say $2,000 a month, we're at $2,500 may work, you share that, or you may be able to provide a range. So you may not know exactly what you may be paying, but you may say anything between $2,000 to $3,000 may be ideal for what the role may entail. Now, I always implore, because when I was at the BEC, my role was to not necessarily deal with the employees, but I used to be advising the employers, and the HR professionals across Barbados, both macro and micro. And I always used to say to them that question is a very difficult question, but I also put my applicants at ease, where I say to them that, regardless of the salary you share with me, let's say it's too low, but I know that the role is commensurate of a salary of $4,000. I'm not gonna say, oh, she told me $2,000, I'm gonna give her $2,000, because then when you get it, you see all what you're required to do. And then of course, for some reason, salaries is no longer confidential. It's confidential with HR, but it's no longer confidential with the employees. So everybody's now willy-nilly with their salaries. Oh, I just get X and oh, I just get Y. So everybody talking about the salaries now. So eventually persons would know. So we're also cognizant of that, especially if you're within a unionized environment, which they believe equal work for equal pay. But for those who are not in unionized environments, there's still that level of flexibility where there may be a variance in the salary. So all in all, take that time to really, and if you can't, although I say there's no information out there, still see if you can gather that information. Still see if you know someone personally who may not be at that company, but maybe in another company doing the similar duties and responsibilities, and find out that information. If you can't get it, then of course you would then have no choice but to resort to your expense analysis, and also be cognizant of the fact that the minimum wage in Barbados is $8.50. That would be my best advice that I can give as it relates to salary.
So I just want to add to Dylan that I agree in offering a range, right? But then you can also say you're open to negotiation, right? You can definitely include that so that you don't feel as though you're stuck or the employer is being stuck as well. Secondly, I would say one thing that is open is the public sector skills, right, in Barbados. So if you're absolutely looking for something and you feel as though you're stuck, you can get a whole of public sector wage rates or the wage scale, and you could benchmark it from the lower end. Don't go in there and quote the higher ends now, but you're looking at the lower wages, right? And as Dylan rightfully said, also contact fellow persons within the same area. What I want to warn against, and I really want you guys to be aware that sometimes when you go into the organization, Dylan made reference to it, but there's a minimum wage rate. There's and also an Employees' Right Act that I would like you guys to be aware of as well. I would like you guys to go and familiarize yourself with it, because oftentimes in organizations as well, you need to know that there's a rate for overtime. You are paid for overtime. There's time and a half, and there's double time. So you also need to know your rights as well. I want you to say, know your rights. You're not going in there to like park, open the door and behave badly and say, well, this is what I deserve. But you're better preparing yourself for when you have that interview question that you can ask yourself in the best way possible. That is my contribution.
I just gonna say, just to add to that is, well, with regards to the overtime and the double time, which is the premium rates, that's actually found in the Shops app, because really specific for shop assistants. But of course, you can have a read of that. And I always make a joke, even when I go into my interviews, I tell, because I also hate that question. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm not sure what the fellow panelists would think. I hate that question with all my heart. But I usually say, after I do give a range, I also say, you know what? But make me an offer that I can't refuse, and also pay me what is commensurate to the role. You know, so in addition to that's me basically saying, you know, we can go into some negotiations, but you know, you saw what I can bring to the table. So pay me what you think is commensurate of what my duties and responsibilities are going to be. And to me, that's not rude, because I said it many times, and look where I sit today.
Because the organization already knows what that position requires, just not what they're offering you up front, but they actually know what day-to-day tasks that you would need for that position. So they're also in a better position to make you, as Dylan said, a decent offer.
I'd like to endorse what Dylan was saying, both Dylan and Toya. What I would like to add is just one of my views is, if the truth isn't going to get you there, it's probably not someplace that you're meant to be. So if you're someone that you know for a fact that you're not willing to go below a certain amount, and they ask you that question, you can answer honestly, because in that case, if the offer comes back and it's lower, it's probably not going to it's going to be a waste of your time and their time. If you're someone that you're not exactly sure where it is, again, defaulting to a response like what Dylan would have said, in terms that you're open to, well, Anatoy, you're open to negotiation, or pay me what is commensurate with the role, that will get you where you need to be. So I say in either way, go with the honesty is the best policy in that case.
But we also want to be realistic, and going back to what Dylan would have said earlier, you know that sometimes you have to step back to actually move forward. So it's not always about the salary, it's about gaining that experience as well. You don't want to be exploited, but you also want to know, this is where I'm going to get, and this experience is going to help me get there. So sometimes we have to take a step back to actually move forward to where you want to go.
I like to give real life examples. So I use me as an example. When I was working at a particular firm, and an offer came up, and I went to the interview, and when it got to the salary, they told me what the salary would have been. For me, I sighed a couple times, and I did what Dylan said, dealt with my expenses, because the truth of the matter is that the salary that they were offering was way lower than what I was getting at the time. But I decided to still take the job. I took the pay cut and I went, because when I look at it holistically, the package, the training, the upward mobility, the compensation, everything, if I had to put a dollar value to it, would have equated to be way more than what I was offering at that time. So like everybody else on the panel said, continue to study, know exactly what you want, going with some confidence, and it's not all about the money. You need to look at it holistically, where you want to get, what the company is offering. And like I said, there's sometimes that the compensation, the upward mobility is times more than the salary. Once you put it together, it comes all together, it works out to be more. But we are all humans, and going back to this human element, most, if not all, on this call, I should say, will be motivated by money. Everybody has a different piece of motivation. And at that point, you need to know what motivates you. So for me, right now, using me as an example, money may be my motivator. For Kerry, that may not be his motivator. His motivator may be outward mobility or training. So you need to know what motivates you, what it is that you want. And if it is that you do not know at this stage what it is you want, just take some time, take a couple of days, speak with somebody, sit down, figure out what it is that you want in life and go after it. That's the advice I can give you.
Since Alicia called my name, I just want to chime in on that and again endorse what that is. Those are some of my motivators as well. But again, looking at the holistic picture, what Alicia is mentioning as well, to the company culture is also a key factor as well too, because there is money, but you also want to have peace of mind at the end of the day too. So again, it's looking at the holistic picture. What is going to make you happiest overall?
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I saw a question in the chat from Christina. She asks, what do you do when you join a company at the same time as someone else? And during a lunchtime discussion, it comes up that the person is making way more than you and you're within the same role. I'm assuming that's what you mean, Christina. So how would you approach HR on it? So you don't seem bossy or so that you can get a positive outcome from such? Dylan, you're smiling. You want to go?
I really didn't want to go.
I apologize.
No, just kidding. Just give me 1 second. So my countdown is saying, right, just let me switch my cell phone because this is going to cut off now. Hey, can everyone hear me still, right? You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. Right. So regards to the question where the person goes into the lunchroom, person starts the same day, and we realize that there's a variance within our salaries. Now, I always say this, and my grandmother said this to me many, many years ago. Well, I may be saying it incorrectly, but it's almost like comparison's the killer of all joy. And the minute you do that comparison, you're killing your joy. And really, at that point, you're reducing what could be potentially there for you. So the whole objective that what I try to bring over is there may be a reason why that person is receiving a higher salary. And at the end of the day, some businesses, we have salary scales. So things that we would take into consideration as HR professionals would be experience. And also we would take qualifications into consideration. And taking those two things into consideration will determine sometimes where persons may fall within that salary scale. So yes, this person may be at $2,000 and someone may be at $2,500 or maybe at $3,000, but there may be contributing factors to why there's a variance. Now, in such instances, remember I talked about the Discrimination Act with regards to, as employers, we cannot discriminate for sex, race, gender, you name it, sexual orientation. We can't discriminate. So if you do have legitimate grounds on which you can substantiate that or believe, and also substantiate the fact that you are being discriminated against based on your remuneration that you're being paid in comparison to someone else, because that person may be a male and you're a female, and that can be substantiated, then that's a claim that you can bring to HR to say, well, hey, these are the grounds I'm bringing the claim. The protected characteristic that I believe as though my rights is being infringed upon is really to deal with the fact of gender, that I'm a female and he's a male. We have the same qualifications, we have the same everything, we're doing the same work role, we have the same job description, but he's getting more than me. Then you would have a legitimate claim that can be made to HR, and we, by the said Discrimination Act, have a right to look in, investigate and try to mitigate and rectify any issues that may arise from that particular situation. But in addition, or apart from that particular scenario, as HR professionals, we try to be fair as possible in terms of salary. Yes, in some instances, there may be some biases that may exist, but there may also be other factors that exist as to why someone who's doing the same job as you may be making a little bit more money than you are. And also always remember, and I said this from the beginning, it's sometimes all about the experience you're getting or you're gaining there. Yeah, because that place of employment may not be your final destination. And that was not a pun intended. I'm not associating it with the movie. It may not be your final destination, but it's for you to just learn, grow, gain all the insight you can from that particular organization and use that as a stepping stone to get you to where you want to be in the next step of your career advancement.
Thanks, Dylan. I just want to add to as well, and to begin, Dylan said not to compare, but I do want you to compare. I want you to compare what is it that you're doing well within that current role and what areas that you, not your next person, can do to improve within that role, because sometimes we see this person doing so much, but our standard of performance is not where it ought to be. So before we go over into HR, make sure we too take an introspection of where we are, how we can improve, and what initiatives have we done to bring the company into being that competitive advantage frame position.
Thank you, panelists. And we're actually here at the end. So before we give the attendees the chance to ask you guys any questions, we have one last question. So we sent in our CV, we got called for the interview, we did the interview. It was a good interview. Should you send a thank you letter to the employer?
Yes, we do look forward to that. We do look forward to receiving thank yous. I think we are humans too. We like to hear the word thank you. We don't get it much from our interviewees. So when we get one, we smile from ear to ear. But in the interview, once it is that you send a thank you, it speaks volume. It speaks that you are, how do I put this? You are in touch with the company. This company is something that it got to be a standard, because if it is that you send in thank yous, you send the standard, you set the standard, you put it out there, you respond. If it is that you acknowledge that there are other people out there who are doing good work, so you tell them thank you. Even once it is that you get into the firm, you grow and you can work with peers and you can acknowledge the work that other people on your team is doing. So it speaks volume. Say thank you, and to put it in layman terms and Barbadian terms, it's just manners. That's the truth of the fact.
I'll go the extra mile and say also, you can also use it, thank you, to reinforce some of the topics that would have been discussed during your interview to really show that you were paying attention and you are the ideal candidate to be hired for that particular role. So you're saying yes, thank you, because you're recognizing the interviewer has taken their time or their schedule to meet with you, but you're also reinforcing why you are the best candidate for this role, because these are the points that were discussed and this is how I can work towards helping the company achieve their competitive advantage, because that is the reason why the company is looking to hire persons to reach that goal that they actually want, or those goals or those objectives. Yeah. So it's a good way for you to reinforce that you are the best candidate for that role.
To add to that, I know we're talking about the thank you, but I know that some of us will get a letter saying, unfortunately, you were not shortlisted. We also ask for feedback. You ask us for feedback. Where it is that you went wrong. Yeah, sorry about that. So you ask where you went wrong, what needs to be done, where you need to improve, and guarantee you, we as HR practitioners, we tell you where you went wrong, because we want you to grow. We want you to ace that next interview. So it doesn't make sense just asking for the feedback and you don't work on it. Please work on it. It's continuous development. We continue to do that.
Keisha, with your indulgence, I would like to create some level of history where a panelist asks a question to the fellow panelists, because it happened to me recently. I just like to gain some insight, and I think it will help also those who are listening.
Yeah,
yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah.
We talked about the thank you letters and stuff, but do you guys find it, or would you find it weird if someone after the interview, not know if they got the job or not, sent you to show their gratitude for the interview, sent you an actual gift itself? So like a bottle of wine, fruit baskets, and those types of things.
I don't accept those. No, I send it back, Dylan. I send it back.
No. Was it around Christmas, Dylan? Because it should as a Christmas gift.
No. I still didn't want it. I told you.
You have to be careful that the biases. We spoke about that early on, and that person may feel as though, hey, I got the job because, you know, I mean, not actually start to send that gift or so forth. So you just will write an email to that person to let us know that, you know, while we received your gift, this is not in line with our company policy to really accept gifts from interviewees, you know.
That's exactly what I would have said to them. And I would send back the gift. How much I may want it, I'm going to send it back. All I need is just a thank you letter or thank you email, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, it broke my heart. It was a beautiful gift, but I did send it back.
Yeah.
Thank you much, Keisha, for your indulgence.
There's a question in the chat. I just want to address that. I want to tell persons on this call this morning that at no time at all, regardless of what financial position that you are currently in, that you wear your former employer's uniform on any job. I'm not sure if my mic was clear or what have you, but I just want to reinforce that. At no time at all are you hired for a part-time position, full-time position with any organization that you wear a uniform branded with somebody else's logo on it, right? That has happened, and that is not acceptable. The person that it happened to was asked to leave the compound and to, you know, return with better dress attire, not branded.
But to add to that there, Atoya, I just saying some person may leave from one company and go to another. But what I will say, you can keep on the slacks or the bottom, but just walk with an extra shirt or jacket. To just walk with an extra jacket or something to cover it. So take off your jacket, the one that has the brand, and put on a plain jacket, or just change your shirt. Yeah. Right? I think I see somebody saying.
I think David was saying, to clarify, they were asking if it could be a formal dress. David, do you want to turn on your mic and ask your question so we could better understand what you mean?
So in terms of formal dress, it depends on the type of job. I have a friend who said that, you know, in his earlier stages of his job, that his mom dressed him in a tuxedo with a briefcase and, you know, the whole 9 years. And that may not be appropriate. So again, as you research your organization, you know what is required from the organization. If you're going to a construction company, you're not going to come in a three-piece suit, right? So just be mindful of the company that you're applying to. And like we said before, a nice slacks, a nice dress shirt. If you have tattoos, to avoid any biases, you wear a long sleeve shirt so you will hide your tattoos. You don't want, you know, to think as though you belong to any gang, or for a person to say, you know what, I don't like tattoos, we are not hiring that person. Yes, you want to be authentic, but you know, how much is too authentic, right? And then for the ladies, you know, a nice skirt, a nice slack, nothing that, you know, that when you lean over, when you bend down, all your underwear is showing. You need to be very mindful too of what message you're actually sending as well. But ladies, when you sit, make sure you sit with your legs closed, never open. You know, we don't want to invite our interviewers, male or female, to think that you are, you know, bribing them with desires, right? And a nice blouse. Some people will say stay away from armhole when you're going to in-person interviews or when you are going to face-to-face interviews. So a nice shirt with a nice sleeve and not too heavily branded with, if I know personally to wear the Ralph Lauren brand or the Lacoste brand, but keep that at a minimum, right? You're not selling the brand, you're selling yourself. So the only thing that you're really doing is really selling yourself.
We can go on and on this, but just this is my last note. When going to any interview, may it be virtual or may it be in person, see the cell phone, turn it off. The interview is only going to be maximum, if 30 minutes, so long. And to be honest, if it is that you're going to the interview, your emergency contact already know where you're going. Your mom, your dad, that significant other already know where you go. If there's an emergency, they will contact the company. I am telling you that. It's only going to take 30 minutes. Turn off the phone. Just turn it off for that short period. All right? So don't be in the interview and your phone is going off. No, just turn it off because there's a lot of distraction. Just bear in mind that you're also nervous. So just turn it off for 30 minutes and go into the interview with confidence. The chewing of the gum, put that aside, take it out. All right? You can chew it for a little bit just to freshen your breath, but make sure you dump it just before you go in the interview. If you need to go to the washroom, go to the washroom before going into the interview. All right? So just be mindful of those things.
All right, thank you. There's a question in the chat from Fiona. She says that she usually encourages her students to get involved in some charitable organizations and give back programs. So she asks, how important is that within companies?
That, to me, is very, 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 very important. It shows different things. So it shows volunteerism. It shows you can work on a team. It shows that you care about others. So don't forget, when as school leavers, you don't have a lot of work experience, but you will have experience working within a charitable organization, volunteering, coming up through school, interact. You have the Key Club, you have the Toastmasters. Sit on those boards, be active in them, and that sits on your resume or your CV. It speaks a volume. It shows different levels of things. It shows problem solving skills. It shows the level of critical thinking. It shows public speaking skills. It shows a vast amount of things. So volunteer, be in organizations, be active. All right. And most, if not all companies, they have a critical part to play as it relates to corporate social responsibility. So that fits in perfectly when it comes to join Rotaract. I am saying if it is that, well, you need to be mindful because if these persons on this call are in school, I agree, join Rotaract. But if these persons are in school, I would say if there is an Interact Club at your school, join the Interact Club. Join, and then this is not plug as a Rotarian or Rotaractor, just join a club, a service-oriented club. You can also join it with your church. You can also join it within your community. But join a club, be active, participate, and those things can also sit on your CV resume.
I just want to add there, Alicia, I recently had a chat with an interviewer, and she said, tell me what you do outside of your 9 to 5. If I hear you, what would you be doing outside of here? I want to hear what Keisha gets up to after you turn off the clock. And she was more interested in me talking about Rotaract and how we give back and what I did with my hobbies and my time than speaking about the actual job. So I encourage everybody to, always volunteer, do something outside of the actual work and build your portfolio from there. Feel free to, anybody else, raise your hand, put the question in the chat. You have your panelists right here. Right now, they give you tons of golden nuggets. Utilize them as much as you can.
I will say though, since we don't have any questions, or queries or any comments to add. You can take my number. My number is 850-1163. I tend to answer. If it is that I can't answer at the time, just leave a message. I definitely call you back. But if you have any questions, because we can dig a little deeper. If you have any questions, if it is that you want me, I can probably share it with the team to take a look at your CV or resume. We will do that. We can do that. And if it is that you have questions outside of this, if it is that you have an interview coming and you want us or want our opinion on it, we can give that to you. All right. So that's my number. I see President put it in chat, 850-1163. And you can give me a call. Just bear in mind, I'm human. So please I do not take calls after 8:30 p.m. Please do not call me after that. But you can call me in the morning, probably from 7. So yeah, just give me a call and I will be willing to assist. Latoya dropped her email address in there, but I am sure that Keisha, you can share the information with an email blast.
Oh, yes.
Or automated email.
Yeah.
So you can send that out in that blast.
Thank you. So thank you to all the panelists for offering that. And it's good that you guys said that, because I have my Assistant Director, Blair Dean, here now to come on and talk to you guys about the part 2 aspect of it, which would be the Rotaract Career Fair. So Blair.
Hello, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
Right, let me first apologize. I am it was in a quiet area and it's just become a bit noisy as I'm in the shop at the moment. So I am going to proceed. So first and foremost, I want to personally thank can everybody see me as well? Perfect. Perfect. I wanted to thank the panelists for taking the time to be here with us this morning and to provide us with such invaluable information. I myself have learned so much, of little things that may have heard here and there, but, actually getting to know how to answer some of the questions, the one about the salary, that's something I have experienced, in my company as well, having people ask that question and seeing how management responds and now learning how it should be responded to. That was something that I took away. So moving forward, we are very excited to host part 2 of this session, which will be the club's first ever Rota Career Fair. And this session will be held on Saturday, the 25th of March at the Barbados Light and Power Training Club. So please mark your calendars. And the committee has gone a step further to provide students with an amazing opportunity to secure the job attachment. We have done community outreach in businesses in the north and across the island in general to provide students with the chance to have a real interview and, if successful, obtain a job attachment. We have businesses coming on board from all fields: hospitality, health, service industries, and many more to come as well. We therefore encourage you to sign up for the fair and bring a friend or someone, a young person, anyone who you think can benefit from this amazing opportunity, or just, share the information, have them come out. We welcome everybody. We encourage persons to come dressed and prepared to present themselves for the job seeking opportunity. And we also ask that persons walk with their CV for any businesses you may be interested in interviewing with, and a listing will become available in terms of what companies may be there, so that those persons can come prepared to engage. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Blair. So the panelists gave you the opportunity for you guys to review your CV. So I would take that opportunity this upcoming week to do that before I attend the career fair on Saturday, so that you could present your best self and you could land those job attachments. So now I'm gonna invite Leah Brown to give you guys the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Keisha. First and foremost, on behalf of the Professional Development Committee, I would like to offer our sincerest gratitude to our esteemed panel of human resource professionals. Latoya Hines, Alicia Simmons, Carrie Curtin, and Dylan Downs. Your insight and advice this morning will help to boost the confidence of those entering the working world and further polish those of us who are already in it. Thank you to our guests and students who I know will benefit from this project. I would also like to give special mention to Zachary McCullin and Melanie Goodrich for assisting with the job attachments that Keisha was spoken about for part 2 of this project. To Gabrielle Hines and Asha Philander for their outreach in schools and the entire Holtown Festival Committee. Of course, we want to highlight Mr. Jamal Brown, who would have earlier mentioned that he mentioned our name to the Chief Education Officer, which is a phenomenal opportunity for our project. So a special thank you to him. And for them, to the committee, for partaking with us and making us present in rooms that we have not entered in before. Special thanks and congratulations to the Professional Development Committee for fulfilling its name in actually developing not only its club members, but those in the wider community on their career paths. So thanks to everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Well, thank you, everyone. And panelists, feel free to come out on the 25th as well and give your support to these students. Thank you, everyone. I do hope you had an amazing time. I do hope that you take this knowledge and you apply it to yourselves. You apply it in your job seeking, your resumes, your interviews, and we'll see you next week. And have an amazing Saturday all.
Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.